Hi everyone, today I wanted to give you a couple of tips and tricks for how you can compare your two gradebooks and check for any errors that you might have. So the first thing I always do after I do a sync is I check the gradebooks side by side. So I open my Skyward, look at my Canvas gradebook, and make sure that the grades are matching. You'll notice here that the first grade I have is a 91.22 and then a 91.23. That 0.01% off is very typical, so that's not something that you have to worry about. If it's any more than that, then that means that there's something off and you have to do some checks. So if it was off, one of the first things I would do would just be to do a manual sync. So when I do a sync to sys, this will just kind of push things over again to see if things clear up. One thing to check for too, you'll notice that these two assignments here, if you feel like those need to be in Canvas, if there's no date here, that means that those haven't been pushed over at all. So that might be a red flag. If you see any gaps or things that don't have a date here, that means that those just haven't been pushed over, and that might be one of the reasons why your gradebooks are off. When you're ready to do that manual sync, you can do that here. And then what I like to do is I like to go to the grade sync tab. If you don't see that, you're going to need to drag that to your navigation bar under settings, but this is where you can check for errors. Whenever you see this red little exclamation point, that means that there is some sort of error happening. So I'm going to click on that exclamation point or that completed, and you'll get a little message about why there's an error. So this is telling me that I have something within the imported assignments category that is trying to sync and it's not working. So what I'm going to do from there, depending on that error code, I usually go to this assignments tab. So within assignments, this is where I can check my grade category percentages and make sure that everything looks okay. Now that error message was telling me that something within imported assignments is trying to sync, and sure enough, here it is. So this was something that I imported from a previous year, forgot to change the category. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do move, and that should be under formative assessment. And now it's out of that imported assignments and things should be good. While I'm here, I'm going to check a couple other things. If you notice in any of your assignments that you have an X with a black circle around it, that means that within that assignment, you've disabled that sync to Skyward, or maybe you forgot to check that tiny little box. So if it's black and you think, no, I do want that to go to Skyward, you can go ahead and click it and it should change to a green check mark. Green check marks are really, really great. You want to make sure that if there's anything that you meant to not push over, that is accurate. So here's an example of an assignment that I didn't want to sync to Skyward. Something that you should check there is that you've also made it so it doesn't count in Canvas, okay? So anytime that you have this box checked where it's not counting toward the final grade, you should not be syncing that to Skyward. So anytime there's errors, it could be that as well. So after doing a manual sync, after I fixed that error message, you can come back here to that grade sync history and make sure you get that beautiful green check mark. That means that everything is good now, the error message is gone, and life is good. So another thing to check here too, if things are still slightly off, usually what fixes it is this remaster. So within grade sync under settings, if you just push this button anytime you're like, well, I don't know what the problem is, if you hit that remaster, it'll take a couple minutes because what it does is it just pushes literally everything over one more time, just kind of forces a re-look at everything. So usually 9 times out of 10, if you can't find the issue, try that remaster and it typically will fix the problem. Now, if you get to all those things, you've checked everything and you really, really just cannot figure out what the issue is, that's when you contact me and I will jump in. I'll look and see if I can find anything and everything will be fine after that. So please don't hesitate to do that. If you're spending an aggressive amount of time trying to find the errors, it's time to contact me and I'd be more than happy